Everyone is afraid of one thing more than failure, more than rejection, more than death itself. They are afraid of being seen as weak. And that fear, that single, suffocating fear, has cost more people their greatness than any obstacle ever could. Today, we are going to dismantle everything you were taught about weakness, because what they hid from you is not a small thing. It is everything. Part 1. The lie they sold you. From the moment you were old enough to understand words, the message was consistent. Be strong, do not cry, push through. Never let them see you struggle. It came from parents who loved you, teachers who meant well, a culture that rewards the highlight reel and buries the breakdown. And so you learned, quietly, deeply, that weakness was shameful, that it was something to hide, something to fix, something to defeat as fast as possible and never speak of again. But here is the question nobody asked you. What if the people teaching you to fear weakness were themselves controlled by that same fear? What if the system that told you weakness was dangerous needed you to believe that? Because people who are ashamed of their vulnerability are easy to manage, easy to sell to, easy to keep in line. You cannot threaten someone who has already fallen and gotten back up. You cannot shame someone who has already sat in their own darkness and survived it. Weakness, fully faced, produces a kind of freedom that power structures find deeply inconvenient. So they hid it. They buried it under slogans and highlight reels and the carefully curated stories of people who made it, always skipping the part where they completely fell apart first. Part 2. What history actually shows. Let us talk about the people history calls great. Abraham Lincoln suffered from what we would today recognize as severe clinical depression. He called it the hypo. There were days he could not get out of bed, days he questioned whether his life had any value. His law partner wrote that melancholy dripped from him as he walked. And yet, this broken, doubting, deeply vulnerable man held an entire nation together through its most violent fracture. Winston Churchill called his depression the Black Dog. It followed him for decades. He drank too much. He wept openly, without embarrassment. He failed spectacularly in his early career and was considered a political joke well into middle age. And yet, he stood before a falling world and found words that stopped people from surrendering. Oprah Winfrey was told by a television producer early in her career that she was unfit for TV. She had survived abuse, poverty, and public humiliation. She carried wounds that would have permanently silenced most people. And yet, she built one of the most influential platforms in human history. And she has said directly that her pain was her curriculum. These were not great people who happened to experience weakness. Their weakness was inseparable from their greatness. It was the tuition they paid, the pressure that formed the diamond. History keeps showing us this. We keep missing it. Because we only show the trophy. We hide the injury that taught them how to win. Part 3. The neuroscience they never taught you. Here is where it gets fascinating. Your brain, under stress and struggle, does something extraordinary. When you are pushed to your limit, when you fail, when you feel exposed, when you are at your most vulnerable, your brain begins forming new neural pathways at a dramatically accelerated rate. Neuroscientists call this stress-induced neuroplasticity. What it means in plain language is this: your brain grows fastest when you are struggling, not when you are comfortable, not when everything is going well, when you are broken open. Furthermore, vulnerability activates a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for empathy, social bonding, and moral reasoning. When you allow yourself to be genuinely vulnerable, you literally become more human, more connected, more capable of understanding others. Brené Brown spent over 2 decades researching this at the University of Houston. Her conclusion, backed by thousands of interviews, was stark and simple. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. The people with the highest emotional intelligence, the ones who lead best, connect deepest, and recover fastest, are not the ones who suppressed their weakness. They are the ones who learned to move through it without shame. Suppression, by contrast, has a measurable cost. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that emotional suppression increases cortisol levels, weakens immune function, and is directly linked to cardiovascular disease. Hiding your weakness is literally killing you slowly. They told you to be strong. The science says, feel it first.
Part 4. The spiritual dimension. Every major wisdom tradition on earth has known this secret. The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,000 years ago, says, "The soft overcomes the hard." Water, the most yielding thing in nature, carves canyons through solid rock. Not by force, by persistence, by flowing into every crack and never pretending to be something rigid. Buddhism teaches that suffering is not an interruption to life. It is the path. The Buddha himself sat in complete stillness and faced every fear, every craving, every darkness within himself before he found liberation. He did not bypass the weakness. He went through it entirely. In Christianity, the moment of greatest power in the entire narrative is a man on a cross, abandoned, in agony, crying out, asking why he has been forsaken. The tradition does not hide this moment. It puts it at the center. Because the tradition understands that transformation does not happen at the peak. It happens at the lowest point. The Japanese art of Kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold. The philosophy behind it is this: the breakage is part of the history of the object. It should not be hidden. It should be honored. The crack, filled with gold, becomes the most beautiful part. You are not broken despite your cracks. You are more valuable because of them. If you stop hiding them and start filling them with gold. Part 5. The Practical Playbook. So what does this actually look like in your life? How do you stop running from weakness and start using it? First, name it without shame. The weakness you are most afraid to admit is the one with the most power over you. Write it down. Say it out loud to yourself. Not to perform vulnerability, but to stop giving secrecy its power. Shame lives in silence. The moment you name it clearly, it loses half its grip. Second, trace it to its source. Most of what we call personal weakness
is actually an adaptive response to something that hurt us. The person who cannot ask for help likely learned that asking made them a burden. The person who cannot show emotion likely learned that emotion made them a target. Understanding where your weakness came from does not excuse it. It contextualizes it. And context is the beginning of change. Third, find the hidden asset. Every weakness, examined carefully, contains an inverted strength. The person who is overly sensitive feels everything deeply. That is extraordinary perceptiveness waiting to be directed. The person who overthinks is operating a powerful analytical mind that needs better boundaries, not shutdown. The person who struggles with authority likely has a fierce, independent intelligence. Ask yourself, what is the gift on the other side of this weakness? Fourth, stop performing strength. The people around you are not inspired by your invulnerability. They are exhausted by it, because it makes them feel alone in their own struggle. The leader who admits they do not have all the answers creates psychological safety. The friend who says, "I am struggling too," breaks someone's isolation. Authentic strength includes honest limitation. Fifth, use it as data. Your weakness will always point toward your next area of growth. It is not random. It is not punishment. It is information. Where you are weakest is exactly where life is asking you to expand. Treat it like a compass, not a verdict. Closing. You were told weakness was the enemy. Now you know weakness is the curriculum. Every person you have ever admired walked through something that nearly destroyed them. They did not succeed in spite of that. They succeeded because of what moving through it built inside them. The people who want to keep you small need you afraid of your own vulnerability. Because a person who has faced their weakness fully, who has sat in it, understood it, and walked through it, is one of the most uncontrollable, unstoppable forces in human experience. They cannot shame you with what you have already claimed. They cannot threaten you with a fall you have already survived. They cannot hide from you what you have already found inside yourself. Stop hiding your weakness. Start weaponizing it. Because on the other side of what you are most afraid to admit about yourself, that is exactly where your real life is waiting.